Well, I watched Keith Miller as an all-star defenseman with Shubenacadie Lions in the Toronto District Hockey League way back during the 1950s. And in 1959-60, I broke in as a rookie goaltender with Brookfield Elks. We played the Shubenacadie Lions, who featured the three Ettinger brothers, Harold, Carl, and Ivan, and Buddy Ettinger, Keith Sanderson, of course, Keith Miller on defense. And we tied 2-2, and at the end of the game, we were all exiting the Truro Forum, and I see this big frame of a man coming towards me, looking down on a 15-year-old shy kid, and he puts his hand on my shoulder. It was Keith Miller, and he said, "Good game, kid. Keep this up and you're going someplace." That's the first time I ever talked to Keith Miller. Now, I was speechless, but he did the talking.
There was quite a rivalry in the old years with between Stewiacke and Lance, both in ball and hockey. And now in hockey, again, depends what community you're with, what adjective you use for Keith's style of play. I know from Stewiacke's side, he was called Dirty Miller, and I'm sure from the Lance side, he was the pillar of your team. So that was just the difference.
A big, tall hockey player with a long reach, a very good skater, defenseman, of course, and he was a fixture in the Toronto District Hockey League. He was one of the star players for, I'd say, probably a 10-year period. He came up and played with Shubenacadie and highly looked up to by players around the league. He was a real good defenseman.
Hated to lose, just hated to lose. Very, very competitive. And it was the type of thing that he carried on. He taught us. When he coached us in ball, we ended up at one time going to the juvenile championship for Nova Scotia. We won that, and then the Atlantic Championship, and he coached us through that. Some of the things that a lot of people don't realize, that as a coach, he taught you a lot more than just the game. It was also having the respect for the other team. Little things that he did that at that time, you kind of thought, oh, what the sense of this? Made sure that after every game, we shook hands with the other team. Every game. No matter what happened, you had to go shake hands.
Keith Miller has been working at the East Hants Arena since it was built and has been the manager for over 30 years. He does everything from skate sharpening to rink maintenance. His job this year has been tough.
This year is the worst I've had, and it's really disgusting trying to operate when every day you come in, you don't realize what's going to happen the next day.
Well, I think the big thing is, it was not only how skilled he was at sports, but he was also a builder. Whether it's helping build facilities such as this, or building teams. Helping people in sports. I mean, I know it started probably with his family, but he had an extended family, and then anybody in the community. And I think at first was Lance, and now it's all East Hants. It's funny how things have grown, but he was so dedicated to the community, and such a great volunteer. And
I would say that Keith probably benefited from someone doing the exact same things for him that he in turn did for other people. And Cindy's in turn doing the same thing. So I think you watch it, you learn from your family, your friends, your mentors, your coaches, and hopefully enough people will follow through on doing the same thing.
When you take on Keith Miller's job, you don't just take on one job, you take on about 10. You have to be able to make sure that the ball fields are ready. You have to make sure that also that when the rink opens, you got to be there all the time. You have to open it, you have to close it.
I would say that there's a lot of recreation and facilities in East Hants that wouldn't be here today without Keith's involvement. Like, he kept, as far as I know, like a lot to do with the ball fields, a lot to do with the swimming pool, the outdoor pool, a lot to do with this building and the old building.
When Roxy and Keith were together, it was always an interesting conversation. Keith would always have that little chuckle, a little smile on his face, and Roxy would usually be shaking her finger at him about something. But they worked well together. I mean, they did a fantastic job.
Oh, I would think he'd be a great role model for the whole community. I looked up to him to the fact that he seemed to almost take me under his wing in a sense and show me a lot of respect and always had time for me and used to seek my opinion on a lot of things.
To me, the biggest thing about Keith Miller was he made you feel that you were somebody. When you talked to Keith, he was talking to you, he was listening to you, and he made you feel that whatever you had to say meant something to him.
In the last, say, 25 years, there'd be a lot of people that would have either moved here or just grown up in a different era that wouldn't know Keith for anything other than calling bingo. So this is a great thing. The whole community can see his whole body of work.
The RBC Local Hockey Leaders Program. Hundreds of exceptional volunteers nominated, 14 winners from across Canada. All with a team spot to carry the Olympic flame in the Vancouver 2010 Olympic Torch Relay, and all honored with a place in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Because that's where hockey heroes belong. There's a Keith Miller Night, the Keith Miller Room, the Provincial Volunteer Award, and at 82 years old, Keith Miller of Lance, Nova Scotia is still Executive Director for the East Hants Sportsplex.
Keith was one of those gentlemen that if you wanted someone to respect, someone to look up to, someone who cared about the community, the people, he would be your prime example. I mean, he went into the Sports Hall of Fame, Canadian Sports Hall of Fame. He got to run in the Olympic torch. To me, those are just some little gems that Keith would just, I won't say slough off, but he wouldn't make a big deal out of it. His humility was something else. He just did what had to be done to make the place better.
You know, today we seem to worship heroes, right? It's the movie stars or the great athletes and so on. And I want to say that, you know, the real heroes should be our military, our firefighters, and people like Keith. So to me, Keith was a hero and he's a model. And I said, I don't think it'd be pretty hard for anybody that I know of to ever match what he's done for a community and for his family.
We're just fortunate enough that we know Keith's story, and there's lots of things in the community to show for it. And I think he's very deserving, and I'm happy that he's in the first year.
Well, I'd have to say that the world would be a better place if we had more Keith Millers.
You know, there are a few people in the world that when they come into this world that they make a difference. I don't think there's probably anyone during his era that was better known, better appreciated, and especially most respected than Keith Miller. If you wanted an example of someone that you wanted to live up to, he would be the man. He did an awful lot. He did an awful lot.
2014 East Hants Sport Hall of Fame inductee, Keith Miller.